Welcome to a Skewed Chimp.
Some of you might remember a video I made a little while ago where I took the last piece of walnut that I had and I made a little shot glass out of it, and it came out really nicely. Well, the other day I was getting ready to break it in and play with it, and by that I mean drink things out of it that were alcoholic in nature. And so I went and I got it, and I filled it with alcohol, and I took my shot of tequila, and this funny thing happened. As you can see in this new video, the finish is all just worn right off. Now, I didn't have stuff that was overly hot in here, and I didn't have stuff that was overly acidic in here, and I honestly, it was just tequila. And so somehow I maybe didn't put the wax on correctly or something, but I did melt it in. I wasn't even pressing hard at the time. I wasn't trying to clean it or scrub it or push hard on the shot glass at all. I was just trying to dry it off after having rinsed it out. But the wax finish came off, and so that was both frustrating and confusing to me. So I asked my friend Stacy, and she said that she happened to know from experience that certain types of alcohol interact with certain types of wax in a way that it might be worth my time to go investigate. And since I am not that kind of scientist, I had to actually go and learn quite a lot. What I'd like to do now is share that knowledge with you, just in case you too plan to create a beeswax shot glass. So as it turns out, there's a word in the English language called lipophilic, and this starts with the prefix of lipo, which is Latin for fat, and philic meaning loving. In other words, it's a solvent that loves fat. Hydrophilic means water-loving. Lipophilic means fat-loving. Examples of lipophilic solvents are things like petroleum distillates, triglycerides, which are in animal fats, lubricating oil, prostaglandins, fluorinated hydrocarbons, and common soaps like hand soaps and certain types of dish soap. Importantly, vegetable seed oils, lard, butterfat, and other things that we commonly eat. In other words, things that are made from fatty plants, such as agave, the base plant from which we obtain tequila. To try to be more clear, essentially, anytime I pour tequila into something, if it's got a beeswax coating on it, it's going to break down the beeswax coating and dissolve it as though it was sugar. It's just going to tear it apart that fast. Additionally, it's actually not just tequila. There are several different types of alcohol, including cold alcohol, and I mean just temperature-wise cold alcohol, and it doesn't have to be that cold. And all kinds of different kinds of alcohols will break down beeswax. A lot of other foods will also break down beeswax, so even if you're not using alcohol, things with any of the types of agents that I mentioned earlier are going to have that impact on a piece of wood that you've finished with beeswax. Now, in case anybody's wondering, I did look around and I couldn't find anything official that said what I'm about to say, and I am definitely not a scientist of this type, so you need to take this with a grain of salt. But I am very certain that although this chemical reaction is interesting, it's not harmful in any way, and there's nothing to be alarmed about if it does happen. Obviously, I would have liked to have known this before I started completing this project and finishing it in a layer of beeswax, but I've never actually seen a woodturner talk about this. I've never seen this explained before, and I had no idea that this would happen. And again, I'm just not a chemist. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a biochemist either. So I am none of the things that might have warned me about this, and I've also never played with this type of finish before. So I was kind of caught unawares, but it has been an interesting learning experience. The lesson here is that beeswax is easy to use and it's a very pretty finish, but you really shouldn't put it on anything that you're going to be eating out of. So this is yet one more thing off my final list of things that you can use as a food safe finish, because it's ultimately going to be worn away almost all the time by whatever you put into it. Eventually, even on accident, even if you're trying to avoid it, in most cases, you're going to accidentally put something inside of a beeswax finished bowl that's going to strip it. and it will happen really quickly. As for the shot glass, I will consider refinishing it in like a Journal Finishes salad bowl finish, which I liked the first time I ever played with it. Or I might actually just leave it the way it is. I kind of like the beat up rustic look of this shot glass, and it saves me the trouble of like worrying about it when I do put a scratch in it or I do drop it or something. I kind of like things that look a little bit beat up. That way when I do beat them up, I don't feel bad about it. So maybe this is good fortune and I'll just keep it this way. In any case, it's no big deal, and I'm really happy with the way the project turned out, and I'm still happy to have my own personal set of shot glasses that I made myself. I'll really get a lot of enjoyment out of these, I think. But it did stretch my brain a little bit. It also made me think that maybe somebody else is watching these videos and has something planned for a project in their near future where they might be using beeswax. And if that's the case, since I really have watched a lot of videos about wood turning and wood crafting, and I've never seen this mentioned before, maybe in some way this experience saves you some trouble and some disappointment. So I hope that you found this video at least a little bit informative and at least a little bit helpful. I mean, it was fun for me to kind of get my nerd on in here a little bit and to talk about my projects a little bit more. But I did get to do one of the things I love doing most, which is learning something new. And to be honest with you, if this is the biggest problem I have, I ain't got no problems. Here's hoping you don't either.